Hello, and welcome to the Love Life, Live Life Fitness podcast, the premier podcast where we talk about topics ranging from health and fitness, performance and sport, and wellness and rehabilitation. We tie these topics together to understand their impact on our daily lives and our journey to be the best version of ourselves. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy today's episode. Hello and welcome to today's episode. Today we would like to welcome Matt. Matt, thank you for coming on, and feel free if you want to go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on. It's good to talk again. So I'm Matt Casturo. I'm mostly known through the Movement System, which is our education business, I guess you could say. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist as well as physical therapist. So those are my kind of professional roles, and I've been doing it for about 10 years.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Matt. And feel free if you want to let us know kind of how did you get into the movement system and getting to where you're at currently in terms of like education, career path, as well as like anything that kind of helped you led to just where you are now.
Yeah, no, I'll go through the major points. So 10 years ago or so, I was starting undergrad and I was actually in physics engineering and realized I liked the gym and more than computers. So I wanted to get more hands-on with people, start training, and I actually ended up switching my major to exercise science and starting as a personal trainer. And I went to Ohio State, which is a big school. It had tons of opportunities. So I got to meet a lot of great people. Also, Columbus, Ohio in general is just like a hub for good strength and conditioning, believe it or not. They have like the Arnold there. They have West Side Barbell, Elite FTS, and then a bunch of good private strength conditioning facilities there. So I got to meet a lot of really great mentors and, early on. And then I ended up applying to PT school, getting rejected to all of them. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I ended up spending a year as a high school strength and conditioning coach. And that was great. I loved that job. Uh, but I did get accepted the second time around and went back to PT school to kind of learn some more. So throughout that process, I was training clients kind of like the whole way, and eventually just started making some videos about what I was doing, how I was training clients, some of the thoughts that I had, and then that ended up kind of taking off like over the course of 5 years or so, and it kind of became like most of what I do now.
Awesome. How would you say the experience in terms of being a high school strength conditioning coach kind of help you with your PT schooling as well as anything that you do now?
Oh yeah, man. It's like drinking from a fire hose whenever you have 70. We had like up to 70 kids because we had three teams, uh, and about 70 kids in the weight room, three coaches. So, and a lot of these kids were high school level, so as young as like ninth grade, and maybe have never touched a barbell before. So you're like going all the way, down the row, figuring out like, okay, overhand grip, not underhand grip when we bench press, kind of thing. So some of it was just like a lot of repetition in a short period of time, which is fun because you see kids make gains like so fast. It's insane. Like they're benching the barbell and then like, it almost seems like you blink and they got 25s on each side, over the course of a summer or something. So it was cool to see like kids develop. But then also there's just so much variation in athletes. Like I think if you only train one-on-one, you kind of don't get that many reps of seeing like how different people respond to cueing, how different people respond to even the same strength program. So yeah, it was just good early on to just get like a lot of repetitions of an experience.
Awesome. And that's great. I know seeing like that youth development, it's great seeing, one summer a kid who will be, have one type of body shape and then, next summer he's just completely different. And, it's not always the same with everybody. But
Yeah.
awesome seeing that progress of when student athletes that, they stick to the process, they try to stay their best to be consistent. And hopefully, that performance, it translates from the weight room all the way to whatever sports they're trying to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you again for just providing that information about like your experience in terms of high school development with those youth athletes. How would you say right now, in terms of what you're doing, would you mind just explaining a little bit more about the movement system itself?
Yeah. So the movement system has kind of grown into just like an educational platform primarily. Like I said, it started off as just my personal training business and the handful of clients that I was training, but over time it became like, I guess, more on the education side, because I just really liked making videos. And at first they were just like these super detailed, bioenergetics videos, and like uh, fairly niche like fitness topics. But then I've just tried to like branch out into whatever I'm interested in each week. Um, and at first it was kind of with school and everything, a little bit less formal, and just whatever I was interested in, just trying to make the best video possible. And then over time I tried to really make a system and a structure to it, so we have like our own uh I guess like our own way of explaining things, and like creating visuals, and trying to make that really consistent, and just really just simplifying like complex topics into, you know, a way that people can understand it. That's always my goal, at least. So, day to day, I maintain a small roster of clients, and just do some programming, usually two or 3 days at the end of the month, for the next month, and then I'm in the gym a couple times, throughout the month, like maybe once a week. I have a great gym here in Charlotte that I get to see some people at, and also work with the other trainers, and learn a lot from them, and film some content at some motion fitness. But then I'd say like most of my time now is just spent like really researching topics that I'm interested in, and making cool videos about them, which I really like to do. So it's fun.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I got to say, definitely, like, I want to say thank you because anything that you put out, I remember years ago, one of your first videos, it helped me a lot in terms of my own CSCS development. I remember I think it was the bioenergetics video, one of the
Nice.
ones. And so I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done, starting out and all the way to you now. So you've done a great thing. And I think it's just
Appreciate that. I appreciate that.
no problem. No problem. And you kind of actually touched on the next point. I was going to say, kind of what does your day to day look like currently right now? And feel free if you want to elaborate more on that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think with like with anything, you kind of need like a scientific process, and whether that be like the way you train clients, whether that be like the way you approach like your own training. And then I try to take the same thing with like business. So like I try to make like a kind of like a scientific process to it. So meaning like each week we kind of have a plan of what we're going to do, and that's changed over the years. Before I had kids, it was like we were posting up to 10 times a week, and putting out just like a ton of stuff. But you always have to figure out what's actually sustainable. And for us right now, that's one video, like a long form video that's really detailed, and the best we can make it every 2 weeks. And then we do two new short form videos every week. And then we try to make at least one new like graphic a week. And that's like the content plan, like what we try to put out there, and educate people with. And then kind of behind the scenes, we're always working on some sort of project. Usually it's either a new course or an update to our continuing education courses. So just, you know, we have a couple different ones, but right now we're updating our CSCS course to all the new information, the new book that just got released. So actually, like, it's been like the busiest couple weeks in a while, just trying to really dive into that, make all new graphics, film new videos. And I'm excited though, because it's always good to see like how things develop and how the industry is changing. So that's taking up a lot of time, but it's been good.
Awesome, awesome. And I know you were kind of touching on the new CSCS textbook. And I know it's something that it's still relatively new to many individuals. I know some few
Yeah.
people personally, myself, who are like starting to get into it, and talking with authors in terms of like how was their contribution to the book, and just seeing that information develop. It's great for the field. Always updating and currently trying to stay up to date with those new topics. And I think it's just going to just help people who are studying for the exam. I think that's going to really help them see kind of like if they have both textbooks, that's great to see kind of what things were different, but
Yeah.
seeing like what information is currently many researchers as well as clinicians or practitioners are actually like looking into. So I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
All credit to the researchers who are putting the information together, because it takes a lot of consensus to really get to something that's in a textbook. So there's always that kind of criticism that it's maybe delayed, or we wanted to see this earlier, or things like that. But it takes a lot of time, I realize, and like expertise to really decide like what is the consensus amongst all the information that's out there. And yeah, again, credit to all the experts who are doing that.
Yeah. Right now, since you are helping out in terms of you have your own clients as well as you're doing content with the movement system itself, right now, how would you say in your own life as well as in the life that you live, how has fitness overall been an influence in your life?
Yeah, so I turned 30 recently, and I've I guess like had adopted an exercise routine of some sort uh for as long as I can remember. But I think like the priority has changed since I was 30 to really make it like stuff that I enjoy. It sounds kind of crazy like that it took like years to figure out that that's the priority, but yeah, like I try to play a lot of sports. Like I'm usually playing basketball either on Tuesdays and Thursdays, soccer on Saturday, and then if I can get like a long bike ride or a run in with a friend, like that's great. Um, and then like I'll train in the gym, hit weights like two times a week, 3 times a week maybe. But that's like it's funny because like for years I would lift like 5 times a week, 6 times a week, and kind of be like stiff and sore all the time, and be like, yeah, but I'm gonna get athletic one day. And it's like, well, when? Like I want to play basketball now, or like go out and play soccer now. So like just like kind of shifting the priority to really spending like the most of my training hours actually doing the sport. And that's how athletes are too. I think sometimes as coaches we get so hung up on the weight room that we actually forget to go play the sport.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and I think that's huge. Like that skill development in terms of all the way from youth to maybe in your professional realm. Having that ratio of like how much time am I spending on my sports skill development and how much time am I spending on my physical development. That always it varies person to person, but
Yeah.
I know it's always, and it varies upon the time of the season as well, like off season versus in season. And I
Yeah.
think it's really interesting to see as like, in your own experience, you said you turned 30, like where your priorities are at in terms of like your own, like what you like to do. And I think that's important, overall, depending on someone's physical capabilities, just getting movement and getting out there to keep your body moving in some way. Some people prefer Pilates, yoga, weightlifting, powerlifting, all those different ranges of, just human and physical movement. But I
Yeah.
think, again, you pointed out a really good topic of, doing something that you enjoy and trying to be able to sustain that consistently if you, as much as you can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would say, with that being said, and overall with fitness in your life, how would you say kind of the things that led you to this point of having the movement system, being a physical therapist, with fitness being something that is personal for you? How do you feel like you influence that on others? Is it something that
Mm.
you feel like your actions do it, or do you try to like actively like try to help out the youth or try to again spread the word in different ways?
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of excited to talk about this because this is the first year that we've really had like a big like project to kind of spread fitness in a cool way, in what I think is a cool way. So, one of a really smart strength coach from Kenya reached out to me a few months ago, and he's from an area called Dandora, which is in Nairobi in Kenya. It's a small community, and he came from there, and then ended up studying at a bigger university, traveling a little bit, and then just recently got a job with the Kenyan national team for soccer. So it's really smart guy, but he also wants to give back to his region, which is just really, I guess, like under resourced. There's just not a lot of resources. A lot of the kids in the area just are eating like one meal a day or less because their parents are in hard labor. So about 2 months ago now, we started a project where we're funding a meal a day and a soccer program for what started as 50 kids, which quickly turned into 80 kids and then 100 kids. And now we're trying to expand it to 150 kids for soccer training. And we're actually realizing that a lot of the kids are joining the program just to get the meal. So we're actually expanding it to an academic program as well. But I have really big plans for this actually. Um, I'm just funding it every week, and we're doing all the logistics of setting up an organization, and just trying to figure out like the structure of like, okay, how do we get like a secretary and a treasurer and a president and outreach committee, and like how do we actually make this program like sustainable, and then also expand it to other regions and more kids. But the goal, at least right now, and it'll be interesting to see if maybe you're viewing this in the future, and maybe this develops in one way or another, but like the goal right now is to have essentially gyms like, or coaches or programs from around the world sponsor these kids, like a sponsor like a week of training. And Richard does a great job of actually filming the videos of the kids like training, and you could see them like they essentially they just bring this big meal in like the back of like an SUV, and these kids are all smiling and eating their big meal, and then they go out and hit the field and train. And we're tracking some cool metrics like BMI, just to see like how these kids respond. Like, are they going to get into a healthier BMI range over the next month or two as we get them adequate nutrition? And they were having a lot of like dehydration issues before, so we're just getting salt in their water and having more water breaks. Now that they have nutrition and salt, they can actually drink more water. Before, they actually had to limit water because of risk of hyponatremia. So there's a whole lot that's going on into this. Like we started by trying to solve like a few small problems, but then like each week, Richard and I, and we put together a small committee of people who are interested in this, just trying to figure out like all the problems that we need to figure out to like really scale this and make it like a bigger like project, and like just reach as many kids as we can, because that's like I've kind of already have my bases covered now. Like we have a good community around us, and I've been fortunate to learn from a lot of great mentors. And I think it's just like, I was excited because when Richard reached out to me and we got on the phone and like talked through this and watched it develop over like the last few months, like it just really seems like the best way to impact people directly. And it just seems like there's a lot of potential there to spread fitness and health to like people who really need it. So that's something that I've been working on, and I'm super excited to see how that develops.
That's amazing. That really is truly, that's just crazy to see how much, fitness, curiosity, and even just questions actually can make a big impact in multiple ways on just populations that, again, may not have the resources available compared to other people. So I think that what you're doing that's awesome. And I hope to hear more about that. And like, if anyone who's listening can like, get in contact with you and just try to, help out in any way possible. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Right now we're just setting up the structure of it. Like I said, we have to register as an organization. We have to get like there's some logistics involved with like, if you're going to collect funding, how do you transfer it to Kenyan shillings, and track everything and make sure just all the logistics are figured out. But as soon as it is, and hopefully as we collect data along the way and show the forward progress, we can get to the point where hopefully in a month or two we can actually start to really reach out to more people and spread the word. And I'm excited for it.
Awesome. Well, definitely keep us up to date on how things are going with that. That's great.
Yeah, the Dandora Initiative is what we're calling it.
The Dandora Initiative. Okay, awesome. For you, in kind of in your development from where you started to where you're at, if there's anyone listening here who's curious about, oh wow, this guy has put out great content, it's something that has helped me personally, as well as I know other people who have learned or may really find the things that you're putting out, what would you say is advice that you would give to anyone who may be thinking about doing something similar to you, whether it's in the area of health and fitness or in a different area?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I don't know. Like, I think you never really know where things are going to go. So you just have to start. And the most important thing is just to kind of put something out there and start it. Cause this is, 10 years into this now. I've started a ton of different projects. I've started a ton of different, just like business ideas, and built a lot of different relationships. And yeah, whenever you're starting, you really don't know where anything is going to go. But you just kind of have to every week just decide, okay, with the next few days in front of me, what's like the biggest impact I can make, or like the next step that feels right that I'm called to like, whatever might be coming next for me. So I think just taking that next step, don't worry about, 5 steps ahead. Just, what's 1 or 2 steps ahead, what's something you can do right now. Um, Try to make it consistent, because that's helped me a lot, is just to have like a plan for like, okay, in this phase right now, what can I actually do every week, right? And figuring that out, and then just sticking to it week after week after week.
No, that's awesome, and I think that's great advice. That consistency factor is it's big. I mean, in all assets and aspects of life, I think sometimes the most brilliant idea starts with the craziest idea too. So I think that's really awesome. So thank you for that advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to also kind of talk about and ask you yourself, since the podcast is the Love Life, Live Life Fitness podcast, for you, what does it mean to love your life and live your life?
Yeah, it's a great question. I appreciate that. Um, yeah, I think like, you know, I guess I always kind of view things from the similar way. Like, it, what does your average week look like? And is that in alignment with what you want it to be? And there's going to obviously be parts of your week that you don't like, and you just kind of have to get through, and uh, that's part of it. But hopefully, even those parts are kind of fueling your bigger goals. So, throughout the week, I just try to balance, between whether it's physically, mentally, um, spiritually, like whatever it is, like trying to put a few elements of something that I really enjoy into each week, and then just to be there for that, not to try to think past it, or plan too far ahead, but just to kind of get to that thing, and then do it. So yeah, for me, like that's all kinds of different stuff. That's spending time with my kids now. That's spending time with sports, and it's spending time with like colleagues, and learning new stuff. Spending time in books, reading. Like, there's a lot of different things, but yeah, just like yeah, I think that's what it means to me right now, is just find the things that you like, and then spend time doing them. It seems simple.
Yeah, awesome, and I think that's really true. I think great. Thank you for that answer. I would say it's really interesting, and I think you brought up a great point that that's what it means to you right now. Because sometimes in life, things happen. Sometimes for the better and sometimes for the worse, and that your answer to that could change later on. But being, as you also said, being right where you're at and trying to be being present in the moment. That's important too. You can't think too far ahead. Just keep, one step forward at a time, because you can't get to the next step without the current step that you're on. I think that's definitely important. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. Well, right now I just got one more question for you, and I don't know if it's going to be the biggest question or not, but where would you say anybody can find you at, and the best place to contact you? I know you have the movement system. Is there any things like in terms of like your personal socials, or anything, the best way that people say if they're curious about the content that you have, or just kind of questions for you, what are the best ways that the audience can reach you?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Just search the movement system anywhere you like to learn. We have a couple different like platforms that we're on. Like, we're on YouTube, and we post like a kind of an in-depth big video there. Uh, we also do a Spotify podcast. You can search the movement system on Spotify, and then Instagram's the other big one, where if you search the movement system, you'll find us there too.
Great. Well, Matt, thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast today. I really appreciate all the information that you've brought, all the way from, being a high school strength coach, all the way from, being a physics major, being an exercise science major, being a physical therapist, the
Yeah.
the business ventures that you're looking at, as well as, helping out youth all the way across the world. So I think what you bring to the table and what you just bring to everyone in the world, I think it's awesome. So just keep doing your thing, and I really appreciate everything you do.
All right, man. I appreciate you too. Thanks for reaching back out, and it was good to talk to you.
Great to talk to you as well. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, take care.
You too. Take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I also want to thank our wonderful guests for coming on today. For more content, you can find us on Instagram at Love Life, Live Life Fitness. Stay tuned for our next episode, and as always, love your life and live your life.